Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing fairly well.
The calm before the storm.
The calm before the storm. It's been pretty steady. So it hasn't been that calm, but we're expecting things to pick up more starting Monday.
But they really crank up Monday, October 21st.
Yes.
And I said 13 election days because we've got Monday through Saturday, a couple of weeks of that. And then the main election day on November 5th.
Correct.
So are you ready for it? It's going to be a busy whirlwind.
We're prepared. We're getting ready. Poll worker training started. Well, actually, early vote training started last Monday. That ended on Wednesday. So all of our early vote workers have been trained. We are fully staffed at all of our locations. We're ready. And now we're in the process of training our election day poll workers. So a lot of training going on this week.
How many workers will be helping between now and election day and on election day?
I'm going to say if we're just talking about poll workers, not call center staff or office staff, roughly about 250.
Wow. Okay. And did you have any trouble getting that many workers this year? Sometimes you have to put out a plea.
We don't. I hear that across the board that a lot of counties or states have trouble recruiting poll workers. We don't. On top of the fact that we don't have that issue, we have increased our poll workers' pay substantially. So where they used to earn $165 prior to July 1st, they now earn $200. So we think that price or rate is fairly competitive, and we don't have them running to Charleston County or Horry County to work anymore. They want to work in their respective county.
Now, since September, people have been registering to vote for the first time, or maybe re-registering if something happened with the registration. And they got an extension on that because of the hurricane.
Right.
Got an extra week or something like that?
Yes.
So altogether, how many new registered voters do we have in Georgetown County this year?
Altogether, from September 14th on up until yesterday at about 3:30, we have 586 new voters. From October 7th up until yesterday, at about 3:30, we have 169 new voters.
So we had 169 people registered in that extension.
Correct.
During that extension period.
Correct.
Because of the hurricane. Well, that's good. And I know how difficult of a job this is for you. In control of all the polling places and trying to keep all the pieces moving. I know your heart goes out to the election managers in the upstate where they have to find new polling places. Yes. They have to try to figure out how to get people to the polling places because roads were closed. And I mean, I know you feel for those people.
I do. I can imagine that they're probably going to have to co-locate a lot of their polling places. Some of those locations are probably not feasible enough for voting, so they'll probably do a whole lot of co-locating. Absentee will probably be on the rise in those areas. I have wanted to extend my services, but Georgetown County needs me at this time. So I'm a little more focused on my county, but my heart does go out to my upstate colleagues. Yeah,
you can't go nowhere till election's over. We need you.
Right.
So anyway, let's talk about early voting. It starts Monday, October 21st. That's why we said 13 days, because there's a couple of weeks of Monday through Saturday. And then we've got election day. You can't just go to your regular polling place to vote early voting. There's 5 different places, is that right?
There's 4 different
different places. Okay.
Right. And as long as you are an active, eligible voter in Georgetown County, you can show up to any of those locations.
Right, but if you vote in Spring Gully, you can't go to McDonald's School.
On election day.
Yeah, but I'm talking about during early voting. You've got the 4 specific places. So where if people want to vote before November 5th, where do they have to go?
They would show up to the Waccamaw Recreational Center, the Andrews Recreational Center, the Choppy Recreational Center, or here, the local county office.
And I know on election day it's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Is it a little different for early voting?
It's 8:30 to 6 p.m.
8:30 to 6. So those 4 locations, but you don't have to go to the one closest to your house. You can go to any of the 4.
Correct. So if you are on your way home from work and you're passing through the city of Georgetown or Pawleys Island, Choppy, even though that's not your polling place and it's not closest to your home, you just happen to be passing by, you can stop there, cast your vote, and it's a done deal. One of the things that I really like about early vote is that you don't need a reason. As long as you show up and you're active and you're eligible and you provide one of the 5 acceptable forms of ID, you can cast your vote. So for me, early vote, I think is, well, my opinion is that we will capture most of our voters during the early vote period. I think on election day, that is going to take a whole lot of the longer lines away from our poll managers on election day.
And there's no way to cheat at this, because once you vote on early voting, you're marked voted, so to speak.
Yes.
So you can't go on November 5th and vote again.
Nope. And, the question comes up about the machines being connected to the internet. The only machine that is connected to the internet is your check-in station. And you want that machine to be connected to the internet so we don't have issues of John Smith voting at Andrews and then again in Pawleys Island, because the devices that are there connected to the electronic poll books transmit the information from those early vote centers here to Election Central. So we capture their signature, we capture the location that they voted at, and the time and date.
So if you were to show up November 5th and you've already voted early, it'll sound an alarm or something saying, hey, this person's already voted.
Right. There is an alert. Your name and profile comes up in red, and it'll say something along the lines of early vote ballot already issued.
Because we hear a lot, especially on the national level, of voting fraud and cheating and stuff. But this is a safeguarded thing here.
Yes.
And let me ask you, and I did tell you I was going to ask this, so if you don't have the answer, I understand. Okay. Mail-in voting. Did you get a lot of requests for mail-in voting?
We did not. I looked at the numbers from 2020, and we mailed out over 7,000 ballots in 2020. Take into consideration COVID was present at that time also, so people were still afraid to come out. So I checked again last night, and we had only mailed out 1,800 ballots. So you can take notice of that significant decrease there. I think people prefer early voting over absentee is what's taking place there.
And when you mail in vote, when does it have to be to you by?
So your ballot needs to be to us by November 5th at 7 p.m.
Oh, okay. So same time
when the polls
close.
close.
Okay.
Yes.
Because you've only been doing the early voting like we're doing now since 2022. Is that right?
Since June, the statewide primaries in June 2022.
You did it for that, and did you do it for the municipal elections last year?
No.
Okay, so you did it in 2022. So this is really only the second time we've done the early voting like we're doing it now.
This is nope. So we've done early voting twice in 2022 and 3 times this year already.
I'm sorry, you're right. I wasn't thinking about the primaries and the other things. Yeah, so you've gotten a pretty good practice at it since you.
We do, and it tends to get easier each time we have to do it. We have some really great workers. They make it even more easier, and we prepare well ahead of time. Our early vote locations have been established for months now, and their bins, their materials have been set up and ready to go for at least the last 2 months.
And even though the votes have been cast and early, you can't start counting them until 7 p.m. on November 5th.
Yep.
Okay.
So what you guys will see first are going to be the absentee results and early vote results, because we have those here. All right, so you see those first, and then you wait on the other 34 precincts to come in so we can tabulate their results.
Now, in the voting booth, is there really still a time limit that people have, really? Do you enforce it?
Per state law, you're only allowed 3 minutes in the voting booth. I've never given the guidance to my poll clerks to be super aggressive with that rule. However, this election, I'm telling them to be mindful about it, only because we have those long questions on the ballot, and a lot of people are probably going to be stumped, but we can't have you at a voting booth for 10 minutes.
That's what I was getting
trying
at.
to make a selection.
You've got the 2 referendums for the taxes. Now, the local option sales tax question's kind of short. It's kind of to the point. The capital improvements tax I mean, it's got everything outlined with every project they want to fund with it.
Right.
And if you have to read it in the booth for the first time, you're going to talk about 10 or 15 minutes, probably.
Right. But
so you're encouraging people to read that ahead of time.
Absolutely. And only stand in line to vote when you are vote ready.
Right.
Okay. If you are still unsure about your ballot, I have stated to the poll clerks, allow the voters to step aside, review the sample ballots, because we make them available at the precincts. Have them review the ballots as long as they need to. However, my recommendation is to only stand in line when you're vote ready.
All right. And for the candidates, the rules are they can or cannot be inside a polling place.
They can. Long as, they can be on the inside of the polling place. If they have a badge on, they have to remove the badge, and they cannot campaign verbally. And
their campaign signs or other things have to be how far from the polling
place? To be outside of 500 feet. 500 feet. Cannot be within 500 feet of the polling place entrance.
Okay, but for the regular Joe Smith that votes and they've got a vote for whoever T-shirt on, can they wear that inside the polling place?
If it's a candidate's name that's on the ballot, that's considered campaign material, and that's still within the 500 feet. Per state law, it's not allowed.
So people need to know. And some people might not do it on purpose. I mean, they just may throw that T-shirt on and say, I'm going to vote, not even thinking about it. But they will be told they can't go into the polling place.
Absolutely.
Okay, so keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. If you've got a candidate's hat or T-shirt or whatever, don't wear it on election day. What else do people need to know? Anything new this year from 2020?
Nothing new except for the fact that your ballot is longer this year. Do your research. You could even take some voters take their sample ballots in the voting booth with them. It's allowed. We want the process to be as simple and as easy and as quick as it can be. So just do your research ahead of time, know your ballot, show up to the polls with one of the 5 acceptable forms of ID. That's a South Carolina issued ID, voter registration card with a picture on it, your passport, your federal military ID, concealed weapons permit. Any of those will suffice. And if you have any of those, you're active and you're eligible, you are vote ready.
So one thing we have is a nonpartisan school board race, and there's been some confusion about that. Some people think that if you vote straight party, you do not get to vote on the school board race, but you tell me that's not the case?
No. So once you make a straight party selection, you still have to move forward in the selections process. The system is aware that just because you've made a straight party option, that there are nonpartisan offices on the ballot. So you'll hit next page and continue to vote on the candidates that are not designated to a party.
Okay. Do we have anything besides the school board race that's nonpartisan?
Water and soil.
Water and soil. Okay. And of course, only one school board race is contested. So, I mean, what happens in all? Because we've got a lot of county offices that are uncontested. Do people have a place that they can write in a name, or?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
There's a write-in space in every office except for that of the president and vice president.
Okay, but were you surprised at the number of local non-contested races?
No.
I mean, we've got one school board out of 5. We've got, I think, one or two county council.
I'm not surprised at anything that I see here anymore. You never know what's going to happen. The human factor is at play. So I'm hardly ever surprised at what I see here, to be honest.
Okay.
I take it as it comes.
Any final words for people as they get ready to vote?
Show up and cast your vote. Take part in early voting. If you or someone you knows has a family member that is disabled or unable to stand in line or enter the polling places, we do offer curbside voting or absentee. So you're not limited in your options to vote depending on whatever your situation is. Give our office a call to see how we can best assist you.